I'm really happy to welcome you guys to this month's special session hosted by RMC Asia. And my name is Alicia. I will be your host for today's webinar. And with me today is Kuroyor, who is our experienced sales and marketing manager at RMC Asia. Hi, Kuroyor.
Hello, Alicia and everyone. Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're really excited to see participants from all around the world to inform them a little bit more about our international hospitality internships and cultural exchange opportunities. So we're here to walk you guys through everything you need to know before you start applying with us. But first, for those of you who might be new here, let me briefly reintroduce RMC Asia. So, as some of you might know or not know yet, RMC Asia is a Bangkok-based organization that specializes in providing cultural exchange programs, internship opportunities, and management training in five-star hotels and resorts across Asia and the Middle East. So our key mission is to help individuals, in particular students, graduates, and young professionals, to gain valuable work experience, to expand their global perspective, and to get started on their international hospitality careers, and all that while exploring exciting hospitality and tourism destinations around Asia. So, as I've mentioned, we do work directly with luxury hotels and resorts, which allows our participants to access world-class training environments and to not just explore new cultures and meet new people, but also to get more experienced in a professional setting. So, with that background, let's dive deeper into our programs. Okay, so first things first, Kuroyor, I think let's begin with the question that many people might have when they first encounter us. So, what are the advantages of RMC Asia's matching process, and why should applicants choose RMC Asia over applying to hotels directly?
So that's a very good question to start with. I would say we have a unique way of matching our applicants with our host organizations across Asia. So we work with hundreds of hotels across Asia in our destinations, and we have a personalized service from A to Z. So our services include starting from the moment they register until their program is completed. We'll be providing full support, whether it's preparing their resume, introducing them to hotels, or arranging interviews, or lodging their visa. We will provide all of it. So they're not only getting our services for internship, but for the convenience of it. So they can, their mind can be at peace, and all the background noise or the nuances and the difficulties of this entire process is taken care of by our team. All they have to do is to simply keep the email active and respond to our emails uh, in a timely manner, and the rest of the processes are usually taken care of by our team. And of course, we work with 4 and 5 star hotels across Asia, so we only work with luxury hospitality. And so this is the advantage we provide.
All right, thank you, Kuroyor. I think that's very reassuring for our applicants, especially the part about being able to access leading hotels and resorts, which can sometimes be very difficult to reach for individuals if they just try to do so directly. So, that being said, let's take a closer look at the process itself. Another common question that we often get from new applicants is, how long does the process actually take? So, how long does it usually take to receive an offer from a hotel?
So we usually give an average of 2 to 3 months, processing time, but sometimes it could be far less, or sometimes it could be a little longer, depending on the quality of the profile, or there are a lot of factors to keep in mind. Seasonality, this is one factor. For example, right now is the summer season, and the hotels are not hiring aggressively at the moment. But in a few months, starting in August until early December, a lot of hotels will be on the lookout for interns to fill their ranks, because the influx of tourists coming from Western countries, those who want to spend the winter in Asian countries, they have to, attend to their guests, and for that reason, they will be hiring more frequently, and the processing time will naturally go down. So I would say 2 to 3 months is the expected period, but sometimes there are things that are completely out of our control. For example, visa processing. So if you go to UAE, process could be far, uh, may take much less time because everything is done online, and maybe it takes 1 to 2 weeks, uh, and assuming that there are no complications in the documents. But if you go to other countries, for example Qatar or Bahrain, it may take a little longer because they have a more meticulous way of checking the backgrounds of the applicants. But rest assured, as long as the internship is secured, whether the visa processing takes 1 week or 1 month, uh, it should not affect the outcome of the internship because once the internship is ready, they can start, planning, and the visa will come out in time. So I would say maximum 5 months, but some people go, within the first two months. Yeah,
All right, so I think with some preparation and flexibility, most applicants will find themselves working at a luxury hotel abroad within just a couple of months, which I think is pretty exciting.
absolutely.
Okay, so now once the offer is in place and the visa process begins, applicants might start wondering what the experience will look like day to day. So the
Mhm.
next thing that I wanted to focus on in the session is the benefits and the support that participants will receive once they begin the program.
Mhm.
Okay, one moment. Okay, so this is a very, very common question that many people want to know the answer to. Um, what is the typical monthly allowance when the internship starts?
That's a yes, indeed, a very natural question because they're investing their time and money into the program, and they would like to know how much of it they can recoup by the end of the day. So this is a very natural question to ask. Uh, since we work with variety of countries, uh, the allowance may vary. So we give the average of 250 to 350 US dollars, but in some destinations that could be much higher, and in some destinations it could be lower. It's basically tied to the country's entry level wage basically. For example, Vietnam could be slightly lower than other destinations, and the living standards are far you know uh, lower than compared to, for example, Hong Kong. For that reason, they offer a little less allowance. But Hong Kong, the cost of living is extremely expensive. For that reason, they may offer much higher allowance. So, but just to keep that in mind, we give our applicants like 250 and 315 as an average rate, but it may vary. Yeah.
All right, got it. So the next thing is, could you also walk us through the other benefits and perks that are included as part of the program? So I know there's usually a well-rounded package for that. So let us know
Absolutely.
what's included.
Yeah. So there are two types of benefits. First one is onboarding benefits or immediate benefits. So anyone who is enrolled in our programs are entitled to certain set of onboarding benefits, which includes visa. So visa is completely taken care of by our hospitalization partners. So whether it's 6 months, 12 months, for the entire duration, they don't have to pay anything. It's completely shouldered by the hospitalization, and it's paid for. And of course, accommodation. There are three types of accommodation provided. So depending on where they go, there may be, they may have to choose one of the hotel will decide which accommodation type they will go for. For example, if they go to Hong Kong or Taiwan, the most host organizations prefer to give an allowance. They give a certain amount of allowance in addition to their monthly allowance, and they can find a nice place to stay. And some people actually prefer this option because they will have the whole, place to stay, and they will have their own privacy. However, in other destinations, for example, Thailand, Maldives, or in the Middle East, there are two more options. where they either stay inside the hotel, they have a staff area and they will have to share the apartment, or share the room, or when this is not available, they will rent out an apartment or condominium outside the hotel, and which is dedicated to their staff, and the conditions will be the same. And in most cases, all the outgoing bills are covered by the host organization. So water, Wi-Fi, electricity, other expenses in the accommodation will be taken care of. When it comes to when they provide the accommodation, right? And something that we have to keep in mind, since we work with multiple destinations, I'm just trying to give more examples. For example, if the participants go to Middle East, accommodation is a huge advantage. Why? Because cost of accommodation is incredibly expensive. Whether they are getting, you know, a lot higher allowance or they are doing a permanent job, most of the allowance they get would be spent on accommodation. This is, I think, very well known fact. For example, Dubai is extremely expensive. However, with this accommodation provided, they don't have to worry about this part. Whatever they get as an allowance is their own. Yeah. So there are such factors to keep in mind. Then meals, of course, they will be well fed. They can get 2 to 3 meals per day during working hours. Even some host organizations provide meals outside working days, for example, Saturdays and Sundays. This is, I think, a huge, advantage. So they don't have to worry about food, of course. Then they will also provide uniform and the laundry service for the uniform and the facilities that is available. Amenities, for example, within the hotel will be provided, and insurance. In most cases, host organizations in the Middle East provide insurance. There are multiple types of insurances, but what's more important is health insurance. So uh, in most cases, we will, for example, for the first month, we may ask our participants to purchase 1 month travel insurance for their own safety. But once they arrive at the destination, then everything is taken care of, and the insurance starts with the host organization, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. So there are a lot of other, small benefits to keep in mind, but these are the main ones. So including all of this, so that entry level allowance they get would make sense, so that they don't have to worry about other expenses, main expenses. Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for giving such a detailed overview, Kuroyor. I think one small thing that I would like to add as an example, because I do talk a lot to different participants, use of facilities in a hotel or resort. For those of you who are interested, this can include, for example, using the gym, or if you're going to intern in the Maldives, for example, you are often also able to use, for example, the swimming area, or you can go scuba diving on your break and things like that. So it's not just all about work. There will be some fun activities for you to do as well.
of course. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's shift our focus a little bit to the longer term professional benefits. So many of our applicants and participants who are joining, they might be thinking more in the long term. They might be thinking ahead. For example, how will this experience look on my CV? Will this experience help me land a job in Asia, elsewhere, or like in Europe, in the US, or back home? So the question is, what kind of impact, what kind of real career impact can international programs, international internships have on a young professional's future path, future career path?
Well, there are, the numerous benefits to do internship abroad. First of all, the gaining hospitality skills, that's a very important factor. They will be working with industry experts. So once they start the internship at a luxury hotel, at 4 or 5 star hotel, the level of exposure and experience they get would be completely different. So this is something to keep in mind. They will grow as a personally and professionally when they do the internship. This is something that everyone should keep in mind. It's not always about financial gain or something material. So, uh, and that's why long-term benefits are very important. So international experience. Then, of course, there are then other benefits. For example, There is always, uh, the possibility of getting extension during the internship if they would like to to stay with the hotel. This is something to keep in mind. Or there are possibilities of regional mobility. For example, if they start the internship at a certain hotel, and if they gain the trust and they become part of their team, they can be mobilized elsewhere. For example, they can start in the UAE, then they can be transferred to Qatar or maybe elsewhere. And of course, networking is incredibly important. Even if they decide to pursue their career elsewhere, networking and making friends and connecting with people will go a long way because at the end of the day, they're in the same industry, and perhaps someday they will, of course, uh, uh, can lead them to a better opportunities, their connections. So and another thing, the resume. So having 1 year, 6 months experience from a luxury hotel would certainly make the person stand out among the crowd. So this is something also to keep in mind. Um, I would say, especially the industry in the Middle East, I mean, hospitality industry in the UAE or Thailand, and all the destinations we work with, they are very specific about the hospitality industry, and they are, I would say some of their whole economy is based on hospitality. For that reason, um, the experience they get, the all the skills they learn would be very, very beneficial in the long.
All right, thank you for the overview. And I think you've mentioned just now that there's also a possibility for extension when somebody is doing a temporary program abroad. So
Mhm.
a lot of our applicants and participants do ask if they would be able to get a full-time opportunity after they complete the internship.
Of course, this is something I think all of us consider, even the hotels and the applicants. Uh, Well, most hotels also don't like the process of hiring and firing. If someone is an actual asset to the hotel and they can actually outperform others, there's always a possibility that the hotel would absorb them as part of the team after their internship. There are cases people get absorbed even before they finish their internship because they're already doing well, and the hotel would like to sign a different contract with them as a permanent part of the team. However, this is purely based on first of all the participant's performance. That's why we always encourage them to to be hardworking and being punctual, being enthusiastic and having the right attitude. These are the small factors that add up at the end and will make the final decision. And another thing that I advise my applicants that just don't do your internship when you get the opportunity. So when the time approaches, when the opportunity arises, you should always ask them questions. For example, if your internship is 12 months, don't wait for 12 months. Start asking questions way before, like how can I stay here? What should I do? How is my performance? Do I have the chance to stay here? Of course, if you like to stay there, this things would of course draw their attention, the HR team, and they would consider you, and you would be on the top of their mind when the right time comes. For that reason, I would say that there's always the possibility. Of course, the decision is at the end of the day, decision is with the hotel. But again, when there is a chance, possibility is always there. And I think even the cases we present to our audiences all the time on social media or elsewhere, we have a lot of such cases where they get absorbed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I recently spoke to one participant who was doing a pretty short term internship, and then within 2 months, she got a lot of praise for her performance. So the hiring team decided to offer her a full time opportunity. And I think this also goes to show that, as you've mentioned, sometimes for the hotel, the hiring process itself, they don't really want to repeat it because they already trained a few interns, and the training provided is pretty much similar to if you were hiring a full-time employee. So now they gave you the training, they already know your work ethic, they can see that you're performing well and that you provide really good service to the guests. So of course this will highly increase your chances of staying there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so actually, before we talk about what happens when you finish the internship, one important thing to know is who are the programs actually for. So, Kuroyo, can you tell us a little bit more about who can apply for our programs and what kind of backgrounds and qualities do they need to have to be eligible?
Well, we have three programs, right? Hospitality and business internship, then management training, then we have contractual position. So the first and foremost, our flagship program, hospitality and business internship, I would say it's the easiest and fastest way to get an internship. So for that, they should have certain qualities, of course. Uh, and the most important one is the personality and the way they the ethics, way they can present themselves. These are very important factors since most of the hotels, I would say all the hotels that work with us already come with the expectation that most of our participants are young individuals with zero to no, I mean, little to no experience. So they are either students or recent graduates. Perhaps they have 3 months internship somewhere, and they already know this. So what they're looking for is a right person, so they can train them and they can grow with it. For that reason, the being presentable, uh, you know, speaking and in the right way when they have the interview with hotels. And of course, we make sure that such individuals pass through, but these are basically the most important factors to keep in mind. However, there are other things also we should, consider. For example, language skills. While we don't require everyone to be fluent in English, they should at least be able to articulate themselves and understand the conversation going on. So we'll just usually keep the characteristics of conversational English, and when we have the discussion with our applicants, this is what we're looking for. So when we encourage them to speak to us, we just need to assess the English skills as well. And so these are basically our primary requirements. But for other programs, for example, management training and contractual position, there are other requirements. For management training, they should have 1 year of experience or should have, at least should have the right background or in some cases both. So we look at this individually, and if someone is actually very good at presenting themselves, and they come from a hospitality background and maybe do not does not have like 1 year experience specifically, we can still consider that individual. But ideally, they should have both. And for contractual, of course, it's extremely rare. And when someone is interested in the contractual position, we will meticulously, go through their profile. They should have 2 3 years of hospitality experience. Is number one. And speaking in multiple languages is incredibly important to be considered for this program. And understand the technicalities and the software, for example, Opera or Protel. These are very important factors. And of course, if someone has done 2 years of work at a hotel, they would know how to conduct themselves, they would know how to present themselves. So this would be out of the question. So in this kind of case, we would consider them for contractual position as well. But again, those are very specific cases. I
Okay, that's
believe,
great to know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I believe we
Um,
answered this question. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing is we do often have a point of looking for participants who are also healthy and fit to join the program. So one question that we may get is, what about applicants with some kinds of health conditions? Can they still apply for a program and go and do an internship abroad?
Of course, but we have to, look at this individually. If the condition is manageable, that's absolutely fine. If someone has a very unique form of allergy, which does not hinder their performance and they know how to manage it, this is not an issue. But if someone has something that, of course, affects their performance, for example, um, arthritis, it's just one example, right? And if it's actually affecting their performance, this may be later, difficult for them. That's why we will have to reconsider the application. And other, chronic illnesses that affects their performance. That's also very important. That's why we ask them to fill out the form when they start the application process to make sure that they fit the basic requirements. And another thing I think we need to highlight here, there are cases where the, um, uh, the tattoos can also, gets questioned. As long as the tattoos are not too big or not on their faces, on their necks, or visibly, presented on their arms, that's absolutely fine. And especially if they are doing front office internship, receptionists, and in this kind of cases, hotels may be a bit hesitant to hire them. Otherwise, yeah, they should be okay.
All right, thank you, Kurio, for clarifying that. And then the next subject that I wanted to touch upon once again, I think you already answered these questions previously. So we did already talk about the differences between internships, management training, and contractual positions. But one thing that I think we could highlight here is a little bit more in depth about contractual positions. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because many of our applicants come to us and they say, I want a contractual full time job. I want to go somewhere for 3 years. And let's say I fit the age group, I have some kind of experience. So, what would you advise to somebody who is applying only for a contractual position, and what can be some of the limitations in that?
Well, first of all, accepting someone for contractual position is a very difficult decision because the waiting time would be quite long. I would say out of maybe 100, maybe 200 participants, a few of them could get such an opportunity when they really stand out. And and so everyone would like to get a contractual position. It's completely understandable. However, if they don't check all the boxes, it would be difficult for us to accept them. So, and when we accept them, we would ask them to be extremely patient because it will take much longer, to get such an opportunity. And while we continue introducing them to hotels as a possible, contractual position, they may not get as opportunities as often as, internship or management trainees would do. For that reason, I would usually, hesitate to accept someone just because they want it. So, however, if they really meet our requirements, we can consider them only for this program. Otherwise, the best scenario would be to pair it with other programs such as management training or internship, hospitality and business internship. In that case, they would be exposed to more hotels. And since they are being introduced as intern and a contractual, if the hotel sees the person as an asset and they think the person is doesn't have to do any internship and they can be immediately, absorbed into hotel, they will reach out. So the whole decision is usually made by the hotel. So for that reason, I would say they should stay open to other programs as well, not just the contractual alone.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Another point that I want to add to what you said, because we're going to move on to a conversation about destinations, is that
Mm.
contractual positions are most frequently available in the Middle East. So this is just one other
Right.
point to remember.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay, and then once somebody knows that they're eligible and they've found the program that they want to apply for, the next big question is where can they go? So
Of
why don't we go over the destinations that are currently available with us with RMC Asia?
course. So before we, name the destinations, I would like to, draw their attention to one factor. So our job is to give the correct advice to our applicants. Even if they want to go to a specific country and they want to use our services to do so, there are certain conditions they have to meet to go to this country. For example, Hong Kong only accepts students as an intern. So if someone is no longer a student, they cannot go to Hong Kong because of the visa requirements. Uh, for that reason, we during the discussions we will try to advise them and talk about the destinations. But overall, we have, currently, I think over 10 destinations, Alicia. So our primary destination would be Thailand, and it's always open. All of our destinations always, open. And Thailand would be our primary destination as our home country. Then we have Maldives, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. These two destinations, Malaysia and Indonesia, should soon, become available. We already started, considering our applicants for these countries. Then we have in the Middle East, UAE, Qatar, Oman, and Bahrain. UAE is, I would say, our main destinations in the UAE, then Qatar and Bahrain and Oman. All of them offer unique opportunities. So depending on what our participants would like to experience, we can tailor the recommendation during our discussions with them.
All right, thank you. Thank you for outlining that. So I think in total, from this year, we're offering around 11 destinations. So this is quite a variety for our applicants to choose from. And then I know you already touched upon some special requirements for some of the countries that we have, but just to
Mhm.
clarify, you mentioned, for example, that for Hong Kong, due to the visa regulations, it's only possible to go for a 6-month internship. And
Right.
another condition is that the applicant should be an enrolled student throughout the whole duration of the internship. And
Right.
could you remind me which other countries does this rule apply for?
So another one would be Taiwan and Vietnam. So these three destinations, and of course, I believe Malaysia also falls under this category at the moment. So it's basically it pertains to the type of visa that hotels prefer to work with. So the host organizations or hotels we work with in these destinations prefer to work with internship visa, and that internship visa is only granted to students. For that reason, and most hotels don't want to work with the work visa, which is extremely difficult. There are other complications or the challenges they have to go through. For that reason, they would like to go with 6 months internship, and I think they are able to provide this visa with more with more ease. For that reason, they prefer this option.
All right, and I think another factor to consider also is that visa rules will vary by the nationality of the applicant. So for some
Absolutely.
applicants, the process may be different from others. Or for example, at the moment, I think some countries may have a visa ban or visa limitations for certain nationalities, right?
Of course, yes. This varies from country to country. So I think that's why we have this discussion. So when someone, schedules a discussion with us, that's the purpose of it. So we can explain to them like which destinations they can go. For example, at the moment, Indians cannot go to Qatar because there is a visa ban, or Indonesians cannot go to Qatar to do internship because of the visa ban. There are specific cases like this. I wouldn't want to, go through each nationality at the moment, but those things, these are part of our services that we provide. So, yeah,
All right, great. So I think that's about the end of the core of our session. We've gone through all of the main subjects and questions, but for now, I would like to open the floor for any questions from our viewers. So if anybody in the audience have any questions, now's your time to ask. You can just drop it in the chat or raise your hand and speak out. So I'll give you guys a minute or two to think if there's anything. Hey, I see a raised hand from Fidela. Please go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. It's a very good presentation and very informative, and I'm interested to apply. And since I'm an enrolled student and summer break is coming up, can I apply like during school break and of course without school support? I mean, is it mandatory to have like letter or other administrative needs from schools?
I think I will take this one, Alicia. Thank you for your question, Fidela. Uh, the all of our applicants are required to have school recommendation letter. So since they apply for internship, school recommendation letter will be required. And so, but one thing to keep in mind, if they want to do internship during summer breaks for 3 months, this is a very, I wouldn't say sensitive, but a difficult topic to address because most host organizations we work with prefer a minimum 6 months commitment. There are cases we can arrange 3 months internships. However, they usually prefer to commit our interns for 6 months. And for that reason, maybe summer break may not be ideal time unless they have the liberty of extending their period. Like for example, the school is open-minded about starting their studies after 3 months, including the summer. So maybe if they start in June, then they can, I would say, uh, can go back to school. You can go back to school at January. In this kind of cases, that's considered. That's possible. I think. Yeah.
All right, Fidela, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, guys. I'll connect to you later for details after I apply. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you. And also, just to add a little bit to what Kuruyor mentioned, is that some hotels will also look for seasonal workers or seasonal interns. So in those cases is when it may be possible and more likely to get a shorter term internship. However, as Kuruyor's already mentioned, it's a little bit less common than 6 to 12 months.
that's right.
Okay. Do we have any more questions from anybody? I think if not, I will ask one last question. So this is something that some applicants do ask. So other than the program, the destination, and the department, can the applicant choose a specific hotel brand that they want to work for?
The short answer is no, but I have a very good explanation. We work with hundreds of hotels across Asia, and one hotel may have maybe when they're really hiring, may have like 20, maybe 30 openings. However, we place dozens of people every month, and the opportunities come and go. They will not wait for 3 months to fill the position. So, and that happens quite often when our applicants see our posts on the internet, maybe on social media, and they see a specific brand in a specific country, and they get attached to that specific post, and they want to go to the exact position. However, that position is already filled. By the time the application is, processed, the payment is done, and they are introduced, the position is gone. However, all the hotels we work with provide equal opportunity. They're all 4 or 5 star hotels. If they are not able to go to, for example, mm, I would say Marriott International in Qatar, they may go to the same brand or a similar, maybe better brand in the UAE. Maybe they will be able to secure an opportunity with IHG in the UAE, right? For that reason, they should focus on the opportunity instead of just the brand. So for that reason, I wouldn't say we can guarantee a brand.
All right, thank you so much, Kuruyor. I think that answers my question and also clarifies one very common inquiry that we get sometimes. Okay. Um, so I think if there are no more questions, it's about time to wrap up the session. So thank you once again, Kuruyor, for sharing your valuable insights and advice. I think this was very, very informative and provides a lot of information and answers a lot of frequently asked questions that we get.
Thank you too for having me here. I think it provided, an excellent opportunity for us to share more information about our programs, and hopefully our viewers will find it useful.
Okay, guys, so thank you so much for joining us today. If you're ready to explore your next step and you haven't started yet, you can scan the QR code on the screen, which will lead you to our landing page where you'll find out more information and you'll be able to apply for a program. Or if you have any specific questions, you can also reach out to us via email. So that's info@rmcasia.org. It's also on the screen for you guys. Anyway, we're pretty excited and we look forward to helping you begin your international journey. Thank you again, Fleur, and thank you to all our viewers today. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.